Joe, since we're always history hunting, wouldn't it be a great idea to do a show that would explore all the history that's right here in our backyard? I don't know, what would we call it? We could call it History Right in Your Own Backyard.
I got a great idea. How about History Hunters?
You know, it could instill pride in New Jersey and pride in your country by paying tribute to all the men and women who worked so hard to found this great land.
No, I just said, how about History Hunters?
Why don't we call it Proud to be a New Jerseyan? What a great way to pay tribute to all the men and women that founded this country. I got it. I got the name. History Hunters.
You know, I hate you.
What?
I'm on the verge of something special, and I'm gonna fill my cup with pleasure, and I'm away on down, and I'm gonna build my newest invention, and I'm gonna fly through third dimension, and I'm going way on down. I'm going away, I'm going way, I'm going way, I'm going way on down.
History Hunters is starting our tour of local cemeteries today right here in Hopewell, New Jersey. People pass by this spot every day right here on Main Street, where a profound event occurred on April 23rd, 1775. If we could go back to 1775, when Reverend Houghton was giving his weekly sermon, we would see a breathless messenger rush up and give Reverend Houghton the news that the Patriots were being attacked up at Lexington and Concord. This is what we now know was the start of the Revolutionary War. But before the messenger could give word to the townspeople, he passed out from exhaustion. So Reverend Houghton stood on this very slab of stone, got the attention of the congregation as they were leaving the church, and said these words.
Men of New Jersey, the Redcoats are murdering our brethren of New England. Who will follow me to Boston?
Aye! Aye!
There was not a coward or a traitor in Old Hopewell Baptist Meeting House that day. We were just about to leave Hopewell Cemetery when we came across this wonderful monument placed here on July 4th, 1886. The monument reads, "To mark the resting place of soldiers of the Revolution, whose heroic deeds should not be forgotten by succeeding generations." Now, we're really going to get out of Mercer County. We're going back to Monmouth County. We're going to hit Allentown. We're going to hit the Old Robins Burial Ground in Upper Freehold. Then we're going to take our road trip back up north to South Brunswick. So come on, and we're going on a road trip.
I'm going away, I'm going way, I'm going way, I'm going way on
History Hunters has made it up to South Brunswick Township. We're in Middlesex County, and we're lucky enough to have local expert James Shackelford with us. James, welcome to History Hunters.
Thank you very much.
James is going to show us a local cemetery here, some hidden history that's off the beaten path. James immediately struck us with his unusual story about how he found Dean Cemetery. Through researching local history, he found out about the Dean family plot and went in search of it. Even though he was in the exact location of the cemetery, it eluded him. One day, he happened to see a tall headstone peeking out from the bushes. James was in the right spot, but the cemetery was so overgrown that it was unrecognizable. Fortunately, James made the public aware of the importance of this site, and a local group of Boy Scouts restored the cemetery beautifully.
Okay, so this is the path that we originally cleared, but the Boy Scouts graciously finished it off. They mended the fence, and they did a fantastic job. As you can see, we've even got beautiful purple wildflowers growing, so we've got quite a site here. As far as the history of this cemetery is concerned, through checking the records that the library has and some of the old information, the oldest burial here is 1783 that we know of. Unfortunately, I can't find a headstone, or I don't know where it is, or I'm thinking maybe like that little broken one there might be it. I don't really know. The oldest one we can find, fortunately, is Abraham's spot, who is the Revolutionary War patriot.
Where is he?
I'm going to take you down here.
Tall degree, that's crazy.
Okay, this is the spot. I placed the flag here. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to get an official ceremony here, but it's something I'm working on. Abraham is here. He died in 1816. Stone is very well preserved. His wife is to the left, and we believe this crudely done stone right here is his sister that he did at some point when she passed on. So the three of them are buried together. If it hadn't been for the terrible brush that was here, this stone probably would not have been saved in the condition that it's in. It's in beautiful condition. It's really a wonderful thing to see that it's almost 200 years old and it's in that kind of condition that you can see it so clearly.
And what is this story you mentioned on email? There's a story behind this?
Oh, yes. This is very strange, but we've made about 4 trips here with the family. I've made personally. I've made several trips myself, and I have a friend who I work with that's been here, and we've used about 5 or 6 different still cameras to take a picture of his headstone, and none of them come out. They're all blurred.
Wow.
Every single one of them. We probably used 5, 6 maybe different cameras.
And it's just the whole thing's blurred?
You can see it. You can see that there's letters, but you can't read it.
Huh.
And I've taken Isabel's. You can see her. I've taken the sister, Sophie. We can see her. But for some reason, every time we take this picture, it won't come out. I don't know why. It's intriguing to me, but I have no answers for it.
Joe's also a photographer. We'll have to try to get a picture of
Hopefully you can. That would be a wonderful thing, and
yeah,
make me feel a little more comfortable coming here if we could do that.
The story that nobody has ever been able to get a clear shot of Abraham Dean's gravestone was a challenge to Joe. Fortunately, Joe's photo dismissed the rather spooky myth by turning out perfectly readable. Now, whoa, hold on, Joe. Stop a second. Put the picture of Peggy up. Good. Now, in order to understand what James says next, you have to hear an amazing part of his story. After finding the cemetery, James tracked down living relatives of the Deans, Peggy, her daughter, and granddaughter, and brought them to their own family's plot that they did not even know existed. Through this, James reunited them with 5 generations of their family's past. Here he describes Peggy's reaction when they visited the Rutgers archives and found a 200-year-old school book owned by Thomas Dean.
Thomas Dean is his son. The interesting thing about Thomas is if we ever go up to Rutgers Library, they have one of his school books in the library.
Really?
Peggy's mother graciously donated, having several items that she didn't know what to do with. She donated them to the Rutgers Library.
Wow.
And there's a special archives collection in Rutgers. You can go see the book. And it's very interesting. And I did take the family to see it, and that was a wonderful experience for them to see their relatives from 200 years ago. The little book, he doodled on it and had little trees drawn on it and did his math. It's very, and that's what really endeared me to the cemetery. When I saw that and I put it together with a person, it excited me so much that I got very involved with this.
Wow.
So Thomas is the one that really got me. But it was, for me, you know, the pleasure was more for me than anybody else, because to find this and to be able to get a hold of the family and find out that they were interested, and I struck up a friendship with this family now. So they're personal friends of mine, not just people that I found that were in a cemetery. So it's all very personal to me, and just to see them looking at all their relatives was a wonderful thing. It was really an experience I'll never forget as long as I live.
So just from becoming interested in history and finding a spot like this, you got to link up future generations? to their past. That was a really
And one phone
amazing
call.
thing. Amazing.
All it took was
That's an
one
amazing
phone call.
story.
And sometimes, I think with the way things are nowadays and the way people are busy and running and
Yeah.
working, sometimes it just takes one connection and you can find a friend
Yep,
for life,
yep.
just not even trying.
Right.
And that's what I tell a lot of people I know, and it's important to me. Most importantly, this family, there's a town named after this family.
Mm-hmm.
So why should we not preserve it? The problem is, when we came up this path, you can see, people can't see it.
Yep.
So it's out of sight, out of mind.
There's no sign. There's
If
no...
you look at the other cemeteries in South Brunswick Township, they are beautifully taken care of, and we do a great job in our town. The unfortunate thing for this cemetery is that the public just doesn't know it's here.
Right.
And hopefully, maybe we can raise some of that public awareness and do it. Right here behind Abraham, I don't know if you happen to have noticed, but there are a large amount of what look like little tiny stubby stones in the ground here. Like that. We believe, and we haven't verified it because it's virtually impossible to, but I am almost completely sure that this section of the cemetery was where they buried slaves. South Brunswick Township had them, as all the townships in New Jersey had them.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Deans had a lot of property.
The Deans had, I figure, at least 1,000 acres, and it had to be farmed, and this is how they did it back then. Because they're lined up so nicely. You can see, like, you have 3 here, there's 3 right there. Obviously, they didn't have the money for a real headstone, so if you look, each one is very different. So they could probably, at the time, look at this stone and know who was buried there. Now, right behind you, there's a very special stone. This is the only stone over here. It has initials, and I don't know if you can see this, but it's E-L times H. We don't know what it means, but obviously, somebody's loved one is buried there. And one of the fascinating things for me is you can actually see where they used the wire to carry this into the cemetery. Where the wire, I guess, they used to cut and probably to carry. And you can see the hole that ran right along here from where they worked it.
Wow.
And I love that stone. That's probably the most intriguing stone in the cemetery for me. It goes all down here. The only ones that are not, there are some on the edge that I think are property markers, but I believe most of these over there and over here, even this little one right here,
Yeah.
I think they're all markers. And thank goodness for the Boy Scouts, because we couldn't really look at this until the Boy Scouts cleared it. And when I came in, the second thing I did after I looked at the Deans was I ran right over here to look at these a little closer to see if there were any markings. And unfortunately, that's the only one we have, and we don't know who that is. The only reason I know this for sure that they had slaves is because we do have the documentation of everybody's will.
Right.
So we have Abraham's will and most of the errands that are over there. And what actually turns out to be good is they left them to other people in the family. So it says straightforward that we have left Frank for this descendant.
Okay.
So we know that they had them. We know they were passed down.
Yeah, and since we're talking about cemetery restoration, if you think that some of these names sound familiar, or you might be related to the Dean family or to any other families that we've named, stay tuned at the end of the show. You can read our website address and contact us, and we'll put you in touch with James. Well, all good road trips must come to an end, and so ends another episode of History Hunters. It's pretty cool what we learned today about New Jersey history by visiting just a few local cemeteries. Stay tuned for the website address. Drop us a line.